Chief Justice John Roberts finally got what he's wanted for 40 years, the complete dismantling of the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
Justice Clarence Thomas,
Whoa, that got racist quick. Rather than critique him or explain why he's wrong, this lovely individual decided to call him racial slurs. Lovely. While we're talking about the huge and just crazy meltdown over the latest Supreme Court ruling about the Civil Rights Act and about racial gerrymandering, we have to see what they're saying over on the Clock app on TikTok, where it's always kind of a bastion of wisdom and insight and nuanced, context-dependent commentary. Me when I lie. Me when I look into the camera and lie through my teeth. In fact, TikTok is losing it. They are once again, and again, guys, I don't do the cherry picking thing where you find crazy videos with 5 views. All of the videos I'm about to show you have like 500,000 views, have like 50K likes, 100K likes. Some of them have millions of views. And I put together a little compilation because they are losing it. They are losing the plot. They are losing their ever-loving minds over this case, which, just to reiterate, the Supreme Court ruled that, yes, racial discrimination, intentional racial discrimination, still unconstitutional, still illegal when you're drawing congressional maps, like districts that people will vote for their congressional representatives in. However, they're saying that political discrimination, which is the status quo and is allowed, whether we think it should be or not, and I certainly don't, and we should work on changing that, if you are engaged in partisan gerrymandering, but it has some racial impacts because, for example, Black people overwhelmingly vote Democrat, that is allowed as long as there's no evidence of actual racial animus or intent. That's what they've ruled. And then they've also ruled that you can't do kind of reverse discrimination on this stuff. And you can't say, well, we're going to create this Black heavy district and intentionally put more Black people in it to get a Black representative. And so there's many places have done that. They're saying you can't do that. That's not allowed. So those are the two major changes coming from this. And you can think what you want. You could agree. You could disagree. But if you got your news from TikTok, and while it deeply saddens me to say this, a huge swath of Americans do, in fact, get their news from TikTok, you would actually think that they are like bringing back Jim Crow, the era where Black people couldn't vote and face segregation and were second-class citizens. You would think that they're like instituting poll taxes. You would even think they're slowly maneuvering towards bringing back chattel slavery. I'm not kidding. That's what these people are suggesting over on TikTok. We're going to take a look at a compilation that I made. Buckle up and brace yourself, because this is a real doozy.
The Supreme Court just made it constitutional for elections to discriminate against Black people.
Pause. We're already lying. It took us like 5 seconds and we're already lying. Agree with it or not, the big Supreme Court decision about the Civil Rights Act that was just handed down explicitly affirmed that intentional racial discrimination in gerrymandering and drawing districts is not allowed. So, like, critique it if you want, but try to remain true to factual reality, at least somewhat. Is that too much to ask? For TikTok, I fear it is. I do.
And ironically, that decision is directly connected to the recent string of streamers, nerds, cops, and white teenagers saying the N-word.
Wait, what? How? Is the direct connection in the room with us? Listen, I maybe that's true. I haven't necessarily followed that, but like people saying the N-word in whatever context for rage baiting or whatever literally has no connection to a Supreme Court decision that's been in the works for years. Do you think and guys, I watched the whole video that he did, and I only put a little bit of it in here because most of it was just nonsensical and I want to get to other people saying crazy stuff. But like, he never really circled back to that connection, the hypothetical connection that doesn't actually exist.
N-word.
Outrageous.
Oh no. Karen is so mad about this decision. She put the text as Jim Crow is back, right? So the Supreme Court affirming intentional racial discrimination is not allowed, and also striking down racially gerrymandered districts that are intended to increase Black representation. So colorblind constitutional ruling saying no racial discrimination, but political gerrymandering is okay. That is, according to Karen here, Jim Crow is back. That's the title she put on this video. Yeah, super normal discourse you've got here from this woman with a combined 3 million followers on Instagram and TikTok. I'm so glad that the influencers are influencing people with normal and stable, sane reactions and analysis.
Outrageous. What the Supreme Court just did is outrageous. Chief Justice John Roberts finally got what he's wanted for 40 years, the complete dismantling of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. So if
it's not completely dismantled, there's still many provisions of it that are in effect. Just a particular section of it, the way it will be interpreted is being changed. So you can, disagree with that, critique that. Certainly plenty of valid debate to be had about it, but they just have to overstate the case, and I don't understand why. Watch this, guys. I dropped my latest 30-minute debate into today's sponsor, RecaClip, and I picked vertical dimensions for shorts and reels, added a custom prompt for the kind of moments I wanted, and their proprietary AI instantly found the most viral highlights. It auto-captions everything perfectly and delivers scroll-stopping clips in minutes with really no manual editing required. So instead of your long-form content sitting unwatched, you can repurpose it fast and start posting it across social media. It's the fastest path from raw footage to viral clips, and here's what also makes it different. RecaClip is the world's only AI tool that also clips YouTube and Twitch live streams in real time. While the stream is still happening, you don't have to wait for the bot. All of that for just $6.99 a month, and you can cancel anytime. So if you've got debates or podcasts or old long-form content collecting dust, this really is a game changer. Go sign up at the link in the description of the pinned comment, which is https://creator.reca.ai/ right now and start clipping smarter. Tag at RecaClip when you post your clips. Anyway, thanks to RecaClip for sponsoring, and let's get back to today's show.
So if you think that America is a white country where white people should be making all the decisions, then you just got exactly what you want. And once again, Black and minority voters will be deprived from having their voices heard.
That's just objectively not true. Black and white people will still all be voting the same way with the same rules and requirements in their districts. Districts just might be drawn in partisan ways that, because of the overwhelmingly partisan skew of certain racial groups, like the Black vote, do mean that they have less representation. But that's the ultimate issue here is still partisan gerrymandering, which we've got to get rid of. But it's not race. And the idea that any changes that happen from this will mean that Black people are disenfranchised and white people get to decide what happens in the country, it's just objectively not true. Again, this only even applies to the House of Representatives, right? This doesn't have any bearing on Senate, gubernatorial elections, the presidency, and even with the House of Representatives, already it's just most of us don't have that much of a say if you're because you're either in an area where it's overwhelmingly one side or the other, or increasingly the swing districts and everything are being gerrymandered out of control. So whether you're white or Black, you may be disenfranchised for your congressional seat. And I don't know. The idea that Black people are now going to not have a vote when they literally get to vote just like everyone else between the different candidate options, they're just not specifically going to be able to fight to preserve Black voting blocks that lead to Black representatives as much. But it's I don't know. I just find the hysteria of it all a bit much for me.
Heard. Unacceptable.
Justice Clarence Thomas,
Whoa, that got racist quick. So the context here is that Clarence Thomas, the conservative Supreme Court justice, ruled with the 6-3 conservative majority about this. And so rather than critique him or explain why he's wrong, this lovely individual decided to call him racial slurs. Lovely stuff. Very constructive discourse. It is funny how quick the racism flies out towards Clarence Thomas. It's we're the progressive, open-minded, tolerant people. But then when you have somebody with a long, and while I disagree with a fair amount of it, pretty consistent track record and ideology, he suddenly is a race traitor and evil and bad because he's Black. And so he's supposed to think a certain way because he's Black. I find that to be kind of horrible because, in fact, it would have been strange if Clarence Thomas had not voted the way that he did, because he has such a conservative judicial philosophy, and the natural conclusion of that philosophy is what he ruled. that if he's suddenly on this one issue broke with it, maybe because he's black and he wants more black representation or something, and that's the practical outcome of the ruling might be less of that, that would actually be like deeply suspect. That would be unprincipled. That would be, I mean, perhaps understandable, perhaps a human thing to do, but it wouldn't be an intellectually consistent or principled thing to do. But that's what they want. And they're actually suggesting he is some kind of like a race traitor, and they're calling him racial slurs because he, and of course I have to bring his wife into it because they're super lovely people, because he voted in line with his principles and beliefs and ideology. I thought the whole point, and maybe I'm naive, but I kind of thought the whole point was that we all get to be individuals with our own belief systems, black, white, gay, straight, and then live by our own values and rules. But apparently you have a specific set of belief systems and ideologies that you think a black person must adhere to, or they are all the names that you decide to call them. Lovely, lovely stuff. That is, right? Anyway, let's keep going here.
I hope that the soft shoe you do in hell for eternity was well worth the white approval you got on earth. Clarence, I understand that for the very first time last year, your wife's family let you come in through the front entrance and not the entrance from the health, but you are going to burn in hell. I'm an atheist, and I hope that heaven and hell are real so that you have to see Martin Luther King and then get kicked down to hell for the things you have done here on earth.
They're going.
Pause. They really have to bring up his wife. The thing about the wife's family finally let you come in through the front entrance and not the back for the help. That's diabolical. And like, I'm not above laughing at a racist or edgy joke, but they're not joking. They really are belittling him like that. And they really, I mean, some of them might actually believe that. And in reality, I'm sure that's not what it's like at all with Clarence Thomas and his wife. And the fact that they're in an interracial marriage and no one cares is a testament to racial progress. Like, even in Republican or conservative circles, interracial marriage is not controversial. It's not something people are against. So anyway, this all seems so nasty and so, like, again, kind of like racist. I really don't know what else to say about it. They're just very bigoted towards him, Clarence Thomas in particular. And I find that to be really gross, but also kind of revealing. Anyway, now we're going to get to the woman who says their real goal here is to literally bring back slavery in another viral TikTok. So glad that the younger generations are being informed and enlightened by this kind of content. And it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of views. Let's keep going here.
They're going after the 13th Amendment. That is what this has always been about.
The 13th Amendment is the constitutional amendment that bans slavery. This bitch is serious. She's actually suggesting that the Supreme Court, with its ruling, changing the interpretation of the Voting Rights Act, which still, again, says that intentional racial discrimination in district drawing is illegal, that's all part of a secret plan to bring back slavery. Give me a break. Like, seriously, where's your tinfoil hat at, okay? That's just not a thing. You could agree, you could disagree. It's not a thing. But she's actually quite committed to this bit. So I'm going to let her finish.
Black people have always known this, and we've been saying this because the same government that has already committed these atrocities against our community for centuries is going to justify doing it again, especially because they never apologized, they never paid reparations, they continue to justify it. They've always tried to regress us back.
Sorry, did I miss the part where anybody continues to try to justify slavery? Now, we disagree with you when you want reparations and stuff, and that's a whole different debate. But I must have missed the part where anybody was like, yeah, no, we were right to slavery. America was right to have slavery. I mean, I'm sure you could find like a hillbilly convention somewhere where 5 people still think that, but that's not a thing, really. And that's certainly not the position of the United States government. And I love this idea as well that, like, the government is some kind of lasting, almost personified institution. In reality, a government is composed of people. And if hundreds of years later, all of the people are different, then the government is literally like a different thing. It's like saying that, expecting there to be some similarity between the Polumbos of 2026 and the Polumbos of 1930 or whatever, when my great-grandparents came from freaking Italy or I don't know. There's really not, like, in terms of what we believe or think, because so much time has passed and we're totally different people. And it's like the same with the government now versus Civil War. How are you actually going to sit here and pretend like it's basically the same thing and it wants the same thing? It doesn't. And it's always weird for me when I have to defend the United States government, which I generally think is but it's like not this. But they've always tried to regress us back. That's a quote. And she's saying that about slavery. I feel like, did I just miss a chapter? Did I like blink twice and miss something? Because I must have missed the part where anyone tried to bring back slavery. And this was, again, just people eating this up on TikTok. This was not some fringe person with 5 likes. This was a highly, highly engaged with and shared video. We are totally not cooked though, chat. We're totally fine. We're doing amazing. All right, let's keep going here.
Back to pre-Reconstruction, pre-Civil War, 1600s,
so true,
1700s, 1800s, racialized plantation chattel slavery economy. They have been strategically eroding our human rights, our civil rights, because they want to make us chattel property. They want to reinstate the right of white people to own black people as chattel property again.
Oh, girl, it must be exhausting. Stretching yourself like this. Like, move over, Simone Biles. Because we got to get this a gold medal for the Olympic level mental gymnastics she's doing. But I also fear this may be the onset of like schizophrenia or some kind of psychosis, because you are seeing and hearing things that no one else is in fact seeing or hearing. And that's generally, from what I hear, from what I am told, not good. I don't know, guys. Can you let me know if I'm off base here? Are these people absolutely crazy? Because I just wish we could have a sane country where we could have serious and nuanced civil conversations about things. And the problem is, I really do believe some terrible stuff has happened under the Trump administration. There's some things about him that are really, really messed up that I hate. But when everything that's happening that conservatives or Republicans ever do is literally Jim Crow, is killing people, is the end of our democracy as we know it, it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? And sometimes there really is a frickin' wolf. But 9 times out of 10, because there's not, in fact, a wolf with these people. That's part of what lets people get away with some truly crazy stuff and some truly radical stuff, is that we all have fatigue of this stuff, like doomsday fatigue. And it's because of people like this that the practical reality of the changes of the Supreme Court decision may involve the changing of maybe a dozen maybe 2 dozen at most, districts in a way that changes the political balance of a seat in Congress. I'm not going to tell you that's insignificant, but I am going to tell you it's not bringing back slavery. It's not literally Jim Crow. It's not any of the you just heard these people yap about for the past 45 minutes or whatever. Like, I don't even understand how they think that, other than just total detachment from reality. I don't know. You guys will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit the like button and do consider becoming a channel member here on YouTube if you can. I call out the far left and the far right, but unfortunately that's not always the best business model. So I do need support from viewers like you. Call me PBS if you want, but anyway, hit the join button. You'll unlock early access to full-length, ad-free episodes, but really you'll just be supporting my work and my content. Hit the join button or the link in the description to help out with that. And that'll be it for today's episode of the Brad vs. Everyone podcast. Thank you all so much, and we'll talk again real soon.